been so long since we've had a video together.
I know, because you don't love me.
No, I don't.
She doesn't love me.
Again, first in the vlogs and now it's these actual videos. So yeah, today's going to be a beauty break video. And if you don't know, beauty break videos are basically like what the title says. It's a break from our beauty videos. So today's not going to be a makeup tutorial or a how-to or a haul. It's basically going to be a little bit more realistic regarding life. Well, today we're going to be talking about stress, what makes us get stressed, and how we de-stress, basically.
Yeah, how we deal with the stressors in our lives. We asked our followers on our Twitter and our Instagram, and then I went ahead and posted to a beauty group that I'm a part of, and basically asked all the same question, like, how do you de-stress in your life?
So this video is not only going to contain our viewpoints and how we de-stress, but also how you de-stress as well. Okay, so one thing that we have in common that stresses us out is jobs, or the jobs that we currently have. Me specifically, I don't have a job right now, so that's one of my stresses, mostly because I need an income coming in, and basically I worry about that, not only because of YouTube that I have to maintain and get new products and kind of stay relevant on this whole platform, but also because I want to help my family out too with the bills and finance and stuff. And it's also part of reaching that adulthood aspect in life that I feel like sometimes I'm not there yet. But also a question that I posted relating to the job subject is what will advance me more into my calling. So I don't just want to give myself or work myself so hard or so freely in some of the things that really aren't going to make me grow or grow into what I may think my calling is or what I'm supposed to be currently doing in life. But of course, that question in itself is also something that worries me.
So bouncing off what Emily said, I do have stresses in my job. They honestly stem from just a lot of deadlines, a lot of tasks that I'm in charge of managing. Dealing with that on top of, I work basically 7 to 4, then coming home and having husband and dog and walking and doing the wifely portion of things, and just balancing job and home is definitely a big stressor, and especially with my job because I do travel, and when we're traveling, we do like 15 to like 18-hour days. So that takes a toll not only on you physically but mentally, because me personally, me being around a lot of people drives me crazy and it's very draining, and so that portion of my job, being around like literally 1,000 people for 5 days, 18 hours in that day, is very draining and taxing, on me. So like dealing with that and how to cope with it and how to kind of re-energize and reboot yourself is, it's a lot of work.
When it comes to school, one thing that I have that's an issue is finances. As most of you know, college is expensive, and right now I think I'm okay, but when the day comes when I'm in debt, that's going to freak me out even more. But also relating to school is my major. For me, it's like, am I doing what's going to be my calling or my purpose? And if I'm not, I don't want to waste my time doing it. Also, am I making the right decision in the long run for finances, if it's going to make me happy in the long run too? So all of that really is what I'm thinking about while I'm in math class, questioning my entire existence.
Another thing that really, I guess, stresses me out, and this is kind of all encompassing, is just society's pressures and their perception of how like one should live their life and what you should be doing at a certain age, what you should have accomplished. That honestly is constantly on my mind. Not only that, but just like body image too, And yeah, I joke around and say like stupid things like on YouTube and videos or whatever about myself, but honestly it's just joking. I do love myself, I know that much. There's other things, under that category that stress me out, that's constantly on my mind, is education. I don't have a degree. I have a position in my job that requires a degree. That's by God's grace, honestly. But that, just not having a degree and like speaking to peers and kids who are my age, and they're talking about, going back for their masters and their PhDs, and I'm just like, okay, I just finished, I only have a high school diploma, and yes, I went to college, and yes, I had a scholarship, and I did that. It's so expensive. Can I afford it? I have a husband, we want to build a family, and that's another stressor. Not having a kid at my age, apparently that's a huge deal. Figuring out what's wrong with you, why don't you have a kid? Or like, oh, you never finished college? You don't have a degree? Oh, how'd you get this job? Dealing with things like that on a daily basis definitely stresses me out. Yeah.
So one thing that stresses me out about family is their own personal issues, majorly their mental state. A lot of my family members have dealt with depression. Some of them are getting close to that state. Some of them have suicidal thoughts like that. Sorry, trigger warning. So when I see that they're going through those things, and I know myself is sometimes I can get in that state, I sympathize with them, but at the same time, I feel their pain, and I feel like it's sometimes worse because that's someone that I care about, and I feel like, why do they have to go through that? They really don't, on top of everything else that they're dealing with. So really it's just like, you're seeing a problem face on, and it's like, sometimes you feel like you can't do anything about it, or you feel vulnerable or helpless. But another thing regarding family is death. When I mention death, I mostly mean my parents. I feel like when they die, when that day comes, I kind of feel sorry for myself and my mental state, because I don't know how I'm going to handle it, and I say that I'm going to be positive about it, but really you don't know until it happens. Just, I don't know, like, it's just, how do you not worry about that, really?
Another stressor under the family category would be my family stability, I guess. In particular, my mother. So right now she's not in the greatest state, but just wondering, like, how's she gonna be? Why is she going through this? You know, is she gonna get better? Is she gonna be on her feet? Is she gonna be the independent, strong woman I know again? And just figuring out how I can help. And honestly, sometimes I can't, and sometimes I don't want to. That's the honest truth, you know? One, because I know it's going to pull out more of me than I can give, and that's just going to have a negative effect in the end anyways. And then another stressor about family would just be finances. My husband and I have, actually all of us do have the same goal. We want a home. We want our own home. It can be a family home for everyone, where we can have like new memories and just kind of reach that goal. And that accomplishment. And so how to get there, and how to be able, and how to support the family, you know? That's something that I constantly think about, new ways, or being committed to saving money and looking for programs and getting this house and, you know, making sure that we're all okay in the end.
So my next stress is faith. One question that I have relating to that when I wrote it down was, am I good enough? I think that question comes from, I guess, my conscience and the guilt that I sometimes feel when I know I should be doing one thing, but I don't do that. Like I guess sometimes when I'm lukewarm, or lukewarm meaning like, isn't it you're in between your faith and then the worldly aspects of life, or being secular. And also, like, sometimes I feel like I always disappoint him. And when I do, I feel like the stepchild. Like, I don't feel favored sometimes, or I feel like there's always this thing in my head where he's turned away from me, or just things related to that, but really it could just be me doing those things to him.
I've always been brought up with the Word and with God and what He expects and what He desires of His children. And I can guarantee you 120% that I do not follow, and have fallen and have, like, gotten off the path multiple times. And it does kind of stress you out, because then you wonder, for example, with me, so in my head, honestly, the fact that I haven't had a kid yet, I always chalk it up to, it's because I'm not a good enough Christian.
Me as a viewer hearing these things, I'm like, that's such a bad way to think. And I know for a fact that God does not want us to think that way, because I feel like that just creates more of a distance, or I feel like even that in itself is an open door to creating that separation. It's really like you're battling with yourself, your mind, and of course the enemy that's going to push that even further. So the next thing is life questions. That's my last one. Life questions meaning like what people will call the philosophical questions, or like, why are we here? What is life? Or like, what's my purpose? What am I supposed to be doing? Like, I'm always resorting to those questions. Well, one, like, I can go and research like on tons of websites how to find your calling, what's your purpose, and there's so many different like opinions from different people, and like you just gotta know when to stop and just follow your own voice and create your own voice, and not really take what someone else said and just become that. Find within yourself and in your heart like, what do you want to do, what do you want to be, but also don't be so selfish in a way where you end up thinking the wrong way because you get stuck in your head and you end up making the wrong decision. With those life questions, you really got to find the balance between taking other people's advice from people who are worthy of giving you advice, because not everyone is. Also, taking the time to really reflect and find your voice. So all those three things combined, that may give you your purpose.
And it's okay if you don't know. Like, I feel like a lot of people, the generation now, they just are so wrapped up in that question. Within that phase of not knowing, you know, something will pop up and it'll grab you, you know what I mean? And you'll just get that reassurance and you'll know the next step to take. And sometimes you're not going to see the whole picture. The only thing you're going to see is the second step. And once you're done doing the second step, then you'll see a third step. So it's okay to be in that not knowing phase. I would say just don't stress about it. And I agree with Emily, like, you may think you know what you're going to do with your life. And if you are that 1 in a million who does and accomplishes it, then props to you. Like, that's awesome. Because a lot of the world, like, they don't go through that. They don't have that. I would just encourage, like, everyone to just take a step, take a breather, you know, write down what you want to do in your life, you know, and just, honestly, I always resort to prayer and just leading up to God and just kind of walking away from it. And if it comes into fruition, it's there. It's mine, it'll happen. So I guess the next thing would be how stress affects you physically. So if I'm like a little bit stressed out, honestly, it's like my shoulders tense up, you know, you just feel uncomfortable. I have like these trigger points in my shoulders that flare up and they like feel like they're burning and you can't get any like release from it until someone like presses into it. It's weird. Once I'm in like the really like the mid-level, like good in there, you know, type of stress, my throat feels super tight and I feel like there's a knot in my throat and like I can't swallow. Like I feel like my throat's closing. I start to get very like anxious. I get anxiety. And I think when I'm like super stressed is that my body just completely shuts down. Like I get super sick. I'm weak. Like I'm sick. Like I'm sick. I had the flu and I have to stay home and I just feel horrible. Usually I'm always dressed up or a little bit like I'm just into those things and so I do it and that's how I like to present myself. But how I know I'm not is when I resort or settle for the lazy route. I don't care about my appearance. I end up not caring what other people think just to convince myself that I don't care. Or I'm a little bit bummy, but then sometimes I dwell on that so much that I have to do something to get myself out of that, or else I will end up liking it and I'll just stay in that rut and then my emotions will get all over the place. And then sometimes when I don't get a hold of my emotions and I bottle them up, I will sometimes cry for the smallest things and it will make it seem dramatic, or I will end up crying at night and I'll be like, what the hell's wrong with me? Why am I crying? In the shower.
And when I don't know why I'm crying, which I've had that, like, I've been struggling with that lately a lot. And I'm like, wow, I really need to get a hold of this and what this is. So how I de-stress, like I said, I either isolate myself, just have some alone time. I do nothing, literally. I just kind of do nothing. Or sometimes like taking a hot shower, playing some worship music on. That usually gets me to a place of like release and just crying and just focusing on God and knowing that He's greater than what I'm feeling. So I guess my system, I have 3 steps. One of them is to get a hold of my emotions. A lot of the time my emotions can be the death of me and the death almost of people around me. So I like to get a hold of them, understand why I have these emotions, and I excuse the ones that I have no idea how I got there or why I'm feeling this way at all, because with anxiety, it will give you a fear or give you a certain feeling that there's no reason for you to have it at all. So for my second one, I have to get out of my head, and I either pick up a hobby, whether that's music, art, shopping, or cleaning, etc., things like that. And then my third one is to plan out my worries. So oftentimes I dwell on depressing thoughts, and when I do that, I have to force myself to organize my thoughts and basically plan out what I'm gonna do so I can get into action and stay determined and basically get on the track that I fell off of before.
Yeah.
Besides us, we want to like involve you guys too. It's a beauty break, but we want you guys to be involved. So Clarissa, like I mentioned earlier, she did a poll and she asked some people, our peers and our viewers, how do they de-stress, and this is what some of them have said.
Coloring, painting my nails, watching movies, doing Sudoku, going for a walk, going out with my daughter, writing, drawing, running, walking, exercising basically, cleaning the house, going to the beach, singing, listening to music, or doing karaoke, dancing, going out to a club, talking to a close friend or family, pampering yourself, so like face masks, doing your nails, makeup, things like that. A lot of people agreed with coloring and definitely cleaning the house. Apparently cleaning de-stresses. And that's pretty much it.
But if you also want to chime in, leave down in the comments below, how do you de-stress? Stay tuned for the next segment on self-care, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye. Okay. Alright. Bye. That's enough.